in our professional training, we had two teachers working side by side, and one of them saying, "Oh, I know how to do this and I know what to do." And they're like the other teacher sitting there going, "But you never showed it to me." And so, there was a big conversation about you work next to one another, and it's like, you've been doing this really great stuff, but you haven't shared it. And I think as a school and, as teachers in the profession, like we're all trying to work as hard as we can, doing the best for our students, but it's like working smarter, not harder, and going, hey, I've got a bit to share.
Welcome to Trailblazing Schools, the podcast for educational leaders at the intersection of leadership, complexity, and intelligent technology. I'm Trudy Graham. This is a space for leaders navigating uncharted territory. We explore strategic leadership, ethical innovation, and how AI can strengthen the deeply human work of education. Welcome to the Trailblazing Schools podcast, Karen Mulder. It is wonderful to have you join me today and to reconnect again. Welcome.
Yep. Thank you for having me, Trudy. Yeah, it feels like a long time because a lot's happened since we met at the beginning of the year. It's kind of like, as you said earlier, it's probably like a beginning and an ending to my term. So the book ends. I love it. So Thank you for having me.
So for people listening in, I was working with Karen's school at the very start of the year, very first student-free day or staff professional day in New South Wales schools. And here we are, last day of term one.
Yep.
It's been a wild ride.
It has, yeah, but exciting as well. So lots of tips and tricks and everything along the way. So hopefully I can share those with your listeners.
I'm looking forward to hearing about what's happened over the last term for you and your team, Karen. So let's set the scene for everyone. And I believe you've asked AI to write your bio. Do you mind sharing it?
Sure can. Yep. All right. It says, Karen is a dedicated primary school principal in southwestern Sydney who leads with clarity, care, and high expectations. Passionate about explicit teaching in literacy and numeracy, she works alongside her staff to ensure every student experiences success in the classroom. She values strong relationships with families and fosters a culture where well-being is prioritised and every child feels known and supported. Karen is committed to continuous improvement, empowering her team through collaboration and professional learning. Outside of school, she enjoys travel and has a keen interest in basketball, bringing the same energy and teamwork mindset into all aspects of her life. Yeah, I was pretty impressed with that.
What did you think of that? I was going to say, what do you think of that?
No, I was impressed. I'm like, yeah, that sounds, I wish I could be that person. I guess that's kind of like, the end game is to have all those things happening in the school. So yeah, I was like pretty impressed with that. I was like, oh, wow, that sounded, yeah. So, and I guess that's probably one from the prompts that I've been giving it. So maybe I've tricked it into thinking that's what I'm like. So
no tricks at all. It's absolutely picking up on what you're talking with it about. And it gives you some fascinating insights, doesn't it? Like what your priorities are, in your work. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So what did the AI suggest is your core message for trailblazing and leading in uncharted territory?
Okay, so it says, if you're stepping into uncharted territory, don't wait until you feel ready. You rarely will. Clarity comes from action, not before it. Start with a strong moral purpose, surround yourself with people who will challenge and support you, and stay anchored in what matters most, the impact of those you serve. Trailblazing isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to ask better questions, learn publicly, and adjust course when needed. Progress over perfection always. Most importantly, bring people with you. Real lasting change happens when others feel seen, valued, and part of the journey, not just lead through it. It's like a fortune cookie, a big fortune cookie, I guess. So it does make a lot of sense though. So yeah.
And again, is there anything in there that really resonates for you, Karen?
Mine is, you always get people that are scared to just jump in and try things. And I think that's like the first thing is, don't wait until you feel ready, like just jump in and give it a go. And I think that's probably the first time we met you. It was very like spare of the moment. The school next door to us had met you previously and had organized, and they're like, hey, come and check out and see what this is about. And so we had the opportunity to do that. And I think that was probably the better, because I'm no tech experienced person at all. So yeah, having that opportunity to just get in there and give it a go, and then going, oh wow, we can use it for this and really use it for that. So, and then bringing upon the staff as well, because I've got quite a vast range of staff with the experiences as well, and bringing them along for the ride. We've kind of been picking up things as we go, and I guess I'll talk more about that later.
Yeah. And that's a bit what trailblazing is, isn't it? It's that you don't have all the answers, but you take the next step. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think in that sort of sense. So knowing that, just the fact that, surrounding you with people that do know. And I think it's also to willingly have a go, but, and making those mistakes along the way, and publicly as a school. I think we're all learning. We come into a school, and every day, if I'm not learning something, then, I'm not probably doing my job right. So making sure, that we're along the way, we're, tapping into other people's resources. The kids are far better at technology than I'll probably ever be. So if they know that you're learning too, you're taking them along for the ride as well. So yeah, but I think it's definitely not being shy to take on those risks.
Yeah. Karen, paint the picture for people listening or watching around the context of your school.
Okay, so we're a little tiny school in Warwick Farm. It's in southwest Sydney, located closest to Liverpool. Currently 194 students. We have kind of a unique kind of setting where we had an SSP Mainsbridge school be built on our site about 5 years ago. So they're our neighbours that are always willing to, give us a hand and help out. In terms of that, we have like a huge demographic in terms of, like, we have over 40 nationalities, 78% of students who speak a non-English speaking background. So it makes it very culturally diverse, linguistically diverse as well, which is like an amazing part of our school. We have a small component of Aboriginal students, so we have, technically 4.6%. That works out to like 9 of our students. So we come from a very diverse culture. We're on the Gabbargal clans of the Darug Nation here at Warwick Farm. I have 10 classes all up this year. I have including in that, I have a support class, our first support unit, and there 6 kindergarten students. I owe an AU, so autism and intellectual moderate disability, which has enhanced our school community. So we've got their own little personalities. What else can I say about our school? We also serve the external community. We have a vision itinerant support staff that are based at our school. So if there's students with vision concerns, those teachers go out and explicitly support those students within the Liverpool network. So they're based here. We have the senior school psychologist based at our school as well. So we're kind of like a little tiny hub. Very, very tiny, but yeah, we're kind of a little bit of an older kind of setting in terms of where we're located. But there's, on the future horizon, I guess we've got lots of building and things like that going on. So yeah.
And you mentioned Mainsbridge on the same campus
Yes.
as you. Completely separate school, has its own entity and identity. But I have to tell you, as I was working with other schools while I was in Sydney earlier this term, and I talked about your physicality with Mainsbridge, which is an SSP, so a school for specific purposes. Yes, caters for students with disabilities. So many other educators, when I shared that, they were jealous of you guys. I need to share. They just thought that was amazing, and the partnership you had with them, as well as all of those specialist people and services you provide from Warwick Farm. What an amazing community hub, like you just said.
Yeah, we as I said before, like, we have the best neighbours. Nicole Caton, the principal from next door, amazing educator. Her staff, like we've done some joint professional learning together. We try and get the kids together as much as we can to, be part of that inclusive kind of practice. We took the kindergartens on a farm excursion the other week, and needed to borrow a bus. So, they came to the party with that. So we were able to get everybody there ready to go. But it's just the connections that we have, like even watching the kids, sign in choir practice, we have like a group and then they go and present to the wider Liverpool community. And just the night's great and everything, and watching the kids perform on the night, but it's about those interactions that the kids have on a weekly basis with their practice, and even our staff knowing, getting to know and really valuing what other staff do. So we've been very grateful to Nicole and her team. They're just, they are the best neighbours that you could wish for. So
Yeah. And it's a credit to you and Nicole, because I believe it's the partnership and the relationship that the two of you share that makes the rest of it fly. I think it really does start with the leaders, and making you
yeah,
guys are the models for that. So kudos to the both of you.
thank you.
If this conversation resonated and you're exploring how to strengthen leadership in your school, network or system, I invite you to connect. Visit trudygraham.com.au/connect to explore working together. If you're ready to move from insight to implementation, that's where we begin. So, Karen, what aspects of leading Warwick Farm feel most complex or demanding?
Where do I start? It's like no day's the same, and I guess that's probably why I joined teaching in the first place. But as you get up in, and you would know, being a previous principal, like that, the workload, I guess, in terms of, the awareness, like at the moment where our enrollments are decreasing, so that impacts on my staffing allocation and all of those kind of things. And then there's the well-being, that's like huge in in our area. So, getting the attendance, not all families realize that, the attendance is crucial in helping the child not only with their well-being, but also to their academic success. So, interacting with support agencies and getting in contact with the families and, what do they need? Is it the washing machine? Do we need to get lunches? Do we need to backpack? All of those little things that you need to. Then there's the time pressures that, not enough hours in the day. Everybody, I think, says that one. But at the moment, we've got a few constraints put onto us, upskilling staff within a particular amount of time and allowing them time to, process the new syllabus that are coming in and differentiate those programs to support every student in their class. So it's taking on that. And then you've got the human side of my staff have their own, health concerns and, family things that bring on. So, at the end of the day, it's all about trying to, lead with that moral purpose, but it's also to, being student centered. And, I love Viviane Robertson's work and that around student centered, and I always have that that's kind of at the forefront. It's like, okay, but what do our students need? So we've got to cut through all the noise and get really to the point, is like what's going to be the right way for our students. So I guess if I make mistakes along the way, always come back to, is it student-centered decisions? So,
Yeah, and you rarely go wrong with that at the centre.
so that's right. Well, I'm hoping so. I hope Vivian's right, I think, with all the research that she's done over the years. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, Karen, have you intentionally changed the way you lead in response to the pressures?
I guess in some aspects it's still business as usual. It's kind of, I probably, because I don't think I've had that much difference. I've been in a school institution all my life, a product of public school system. All I wanted ever to do was become a primary school teacher. So I guess I probably ticked that box. And then, went through uni and then came out, had some amazing mentors along the way that have hopefully shaped, who I've become as a leader today. But in terms of that, I don't think so. Like I think we've had to work smarter, not harder in some instances, because there's a lot of pressures, things coming out and rolling out that are trying to make our lives and make our profession a lot easier. However, sometimes they don't take on the, the context of the schools and things like that, as a community that we're serving. So it's just very diverse compared to, one down the road. So I think in that sense, as I said before, it's like that student-centered decisions that are always going to be the main factor in anything that I kind of try and lead. But I think it's bringing the staff along with it that yes, we do have different challenges, all the social media and all of those things that, we just didn't have when we were kids. So there's always going to be things that are thrown in there, and there's no handbook, as a leader. As a principal, you kind of got to go with that flexibility and things. And I think it's also to finding the support and, talking to other principals and, speaking to staff and getting to know, yes, what do they need, and making sure it aligns with where the school's going and what our plan is for success. So
Yeah. You mentioned social media and not having it as kids. I'm thinking when I started teaching, there was no such thing as social media, right? Like, and for a
yeah,
good
that's true for
decade
me
too, I
too.
might add.
Yeah, that's true for me too. We used to have the what are the computer? We used to call them cows, computers on wheels. So I think we have evolved quite a bit since then. So
I'm going to be cheeky and say that was so the 90s.
it was very 90s. So yeah.
So in talking about working and leading smarter, do you put the adoption of AI in that space for yourself as a leader?
Yes, definitely. I think in terms of like where we're headed, our school plan at the moment, like we have in New South Wales, we have the EduChat function. So, and that helps us to, we put in information for our school plan and then we put it into EduChat and does it. I know as a principal, I use it continually, de-identify things and put in, especially if I'm not thinking straight and I need to respond to something in a more professional manner, it goes straight in, and then it comes out. But the emphasis is definitely always check. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. Even with our staff, like we mentioned earlier, that we met you, at the beginning of the term, 10 weeks ago. Um, the staff have become like them using it more. So we had a few staff that were dabbling in the AI space, but I think having those the prompts and making sure we're still in the driver's seat. So making sure
Yeah.
that and then checking it. And I know when you were out, that was like the biggest word of advice was that at the end of the day, we are the professionals. Like it's going to save us time, but it's also to checking, making sure because in the classroom, the class teacher is still the goalie. Basically, it's making sure that the information gets through that needs to get through, but the other things need to be blocked. And I guess making sure that the classroom teacher knows that hey, you've got to have that final check and you have the final say because you're delivering it. So
Yeah, I love
does
that.
that make sense?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely it
yeah.
does. Yeah. Are there any other examples of what you've tried or perhaps what the staff have shared with you in terms of what they're
Oh,
doing with it?
yeah, my staff are actually quite. I have one of my stage 3 teachers. We have so our classes are named after different things every year, and we try to keep it with the theme. So this year we went with Australian animals. I have 2 stage 3 classes, so we've got platypus and bilbies. So anything that gets posted now for reminders or communication to families, my stage 3 teacher ensures that there's a platypus and a bilby. So she uses the images and uses her prompts and puts out these are the messages. So I've got reminders for Canberra with a bilby and a platypus sitting there with their school shirts on in front of the Parliament in Parliament House. School photos, everybody dressed as a platypus. So like she's gone to town. Everything in her classroom, posters and anchor charts and things like that, with the platypus theme. So yeah, I don't know how much it helps with the quality of teaching, but I think in terms of like our families and things like that, hopefully they're having a bit of a chuckle. I know I've used it in terms of like sending messages out to families as well, generating information and things like that.
And I'd be really interested to hear too, what's changed as a result of working this way? You mentioned time earlier. Where have you noticed impact?
Yeah. So I think doesn't matter what platform you're using. It's kind of gives you that one-stop that area where you can go so you're not bogged down in, trying to filter out and going to multiple websites. I guess that's kind of condensed. So like the time poor person coming in and going, okay, I need to know this. So like we're looking at it, when we're developing personalized learning programs for kids with particular disability or a learning concern, these are where you can go and just type in some prompts and go, okay, what are some strategies that I can use? So when we're working with our school plan, going, okay, well, this is what we want to do. How will we put it into and make it so that it's a bit more concise? Because I know sometimes we tend to get a lot wordy, very wordy, and the same goes for our, I guess, our programs that the teachers have been using. We're using the department sample units at the moment. So, and looking at them and go, maybe they're being made for a generic for, across the state, but do they represent the students in our school? So,
Yeah.
we've got to give them either provide them with experiences or, change the content a little bit as long as it covers the syllabus requirements. We can do that, and AI helps us do that. And as I said before, it's always checking to make sure the teacher's using their professional judgment and going, yes, can I use this? Or no, that's not what I wanted. Because, like I guess teachers, we go off on tangents sometimes. AI does the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. I love that contextualizing the learning experiences. I think that's well, once you start using it, you take it for granted, but that's really
Granted.
powerful, right? And it's something I talk about, and something too that as educators we need to be mindful of when we're working with AI is to contextualize and tell it our context. Because again, as I've taught people, what your staff are prompting for in a public school in Sydney, New South Wales is different to the state schools here in Queensland, right? Because the context is different, and your students in your school, in your class, and their learning needs and their backgrounds, and all of that can play into the space. And you can take the same base lesson, but you can really contextualize it to meet the needs and your syllabus. It's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. There's I think we're only using it on a very small scale. I know there's probably multiple ways of using it. It's even just, we've got our Easter hat parade, and a lot of schools have just done it the same way for years and years and years. Parent family meet and greets at the beginning of the year. Like, what can we do to jazz that up and make it a little bit different? So saying, we don't have to do it the same way all the time. It's like, what else can we do? But it's drawing on AI, I guess, to give us some of those ideas.
Yeah, it really sounds like you're using it as a creative partner too, to brainstorm and to think about things in a different way and to make things more engaging and exciting and enticing.
Yeah,
That's
definitely. I also too use it as my, personal editor. It's like, instead of getting, my AP or my business manager, to sit there and go, oh, can you just check this? Just run it through, de-identify always, and then, run it through and go, okay, yep, okay, it's good enough, like it's good to send out. So, it's all about that extra, having an extra pair of hands and saving someone else time from stopping them from getting on with what they need to do, because by the time you say, oh, can you just run your eyes over this? You've pulled them out, half an hour later.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think it helps. You've got another calm sort of person that you can, or a source that you can use.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, yeah. And I hear you, right? Because they're all under workload pressures as well. So
Yeah,
less
definitely.
interruptions for across the team. That's great. Across this podcast, you'll hear leaders navigating complexity with courage and clarity. If you'd like to see how that looks in practice, visit trailblazingschools.com/field notes. These field notes capture real stories from school leaders using AI as a thinking partner, strengthening leadership, not replacing it. It's free, practical, and designed to prompt your own next step. You'll find it at trailblazingschools.com/field notes. So,
Yeah.
Karen, if another principal was listening and feels unsure around where to begin, what's a small, low-risk way that they could experiment with AI?
I just think jump in, like as with the departments, our New South Wales EduChat. It's a great place to start. just putting in little prompts, being mindful of that. Um, Speaking to people such as yourself, our little taster that we did with you. I just think of like what we've done so like since then and how we've improved, not only our communication with our families, but it's helped me with my workload as well. Just having those opportunities to just get in and try it. And as it comes back to, at the beginning when I read out my trailblazing, what my message would be, I think it came down to, don't wait until you feel ready, because with technology, when you're ready, it's moved on. So, and you're on to the next thing. So, I've got staff members that have been dabbling in it for ages, like our neighbours, they'd been dabbling into it. And then you find out that some staff have been, using it and they don't broadcast it to their team. I know we had in our professional training, we had two teachers working next side by side, and one of them saying, "Oh, I know how to do this and I know what to do," and they're like the other teacher sitting there going, "But you never showed it to me." And so there was a big conversation about you work next to one another, and it's like you've been doing this really great stuff, but you haven't shared it. And I think at, as a school and as teachers in the profession, like we're all trying to work as hard as we can, doing the best for our students, but it's like working smarter, not harder, and going, hey, I've got a bit to share. So I definitely jump in and have a go. Start using it, even like just opening up in a conversation in the staff room. All right, who's used it, show and tell, maybe, like a 5 minutes. I know it's really hard to get stuff together at the moment, but, the term set for AI, what are we going to do? Put that in as a chat thing, to say, hey, what can I do to, start my AI journey? Like, getting in, having a go. Don't be scared. As a leader of a school, you already make decisions and you've already, shown that you can do things and, lead by example. So, jump on, give it a go. Don't be shy.
Yeah. And your story of those two teachers on that day, I remember it very well, but you make a great point. There are many educators out there that are using AI that right now won't be sharing that with their colleagues because of perceived, they're concerned about how it will be perceived if they were to admit what they're using it for. And what you've done in your school by running some professional learning and being a model yourself and talking about and all those beautiful things you just said in terms of really easy steps just opens up the conversations, right? And then you get people confessing, oh yeah, I do this, that and the other. And that those two young teachers that day, like, oh, you didn't tell me that.
That was very funny. So I just thought, use them as, I guess, you always have those people that will, shy away and not want to use it. And then I've got staff now that have actually started dabbling in it and going, oh, wow, like I put this in it and this is what I got. And, you'll get the people that will come and show you and be really excited and want to share it with others. Like my teacher that, has gone crazy with the platypus image. But then you'll have, some staff that are still a little bit skeptical. I remember my librarian, who's like the sweetest person. She was like, oh, I went to this PL librarian professional learning a couple of weeks ago, and they did a little thing on AI, and it's like, do you think we could do a little bit more on that? And it was at the time when we were still in talks with trying to get you out. And it's like, well, pause that thought because the first day back this year, this is what I've got planned. And she's like, oh, awesome. So they, as a leader, it's like finding those people that are really keen, and harnessing that, I guess, that motivation and that enthusiasm, and spreading the word, and hopefully it trickles down. So it's like, when you like say, the early adopters, get them in, and then, hopefully it will filtrate into other areas of the school too. So
yeah. And it works. Work with
definitely.
the willing, the early adopters. Great advice. Karen, if there's school leaders listening in would like to reach out with you, where's the best place they could make contact?
Our school website. So just if you just look up Warwick Farm in New South Wales, that'll direct you to email. Just email me through there and get in contact with you. But
Great.
yeah, I'm more than happy to share because I think we've learnt so much, but we're obviously still on that journey. And you hear the scary stories and how people are generating things and yeah. But I think if we harness it as professionals and use it in that sort of, in a trust and professional kind of manner, I don't see that there's an issue. And I think, it comes down to, de-identifying things and making sure that you're reading over it. So just not trusting it wholly, making sure that, teachers are aware that they are still, they're the professionals. As long as they're reading and making sure that then I don't see it as a problem. So,
Thank
yeah.
you. Now, Karen, I love to wrap up with 3 ritual questions. So, are you up for those?
I will give it my best shot.
Great. So, I would love to know, what's the best kept secret about where you are?
Ooh, as in terms of where I am in Warwick Farm, I don't know, I think
Yeah.
it's a little school with a big heart, and I just think, I'd like to think that I remember my very first day walking into this school, and just it may not be the greatest environment. Our communities, still getting their heads around wrapping around different socioeconomic and things like that. But I guess when you walk in that to that school gate, you get that sense that I feel like I belong, and I just hope that that's what every student feels every day when they come to school. So small school in Liverpool with a big heart, and I'd like to think that's our kind of message. So
Yeah.
in,
And I've been there. I will affirm that. It's gorgeous. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
thank you.
Um, what book or film would you recommend, and why is it important to you?
Whoa. Okay, because I'm not a I'm probably one of the only probably educators in this world that don't like I'm not keen to read. And I'd rather be watching sport or out playing sport. Um, so I'm like not a movie person either. Um, I don't. That's really hard for me because I'm not, yeah, as I said, I'm not a big reader. Like, I would prefer to read, like a picture book, like an Anthony Brown picture book, like, Willie the Wimp or Willie and Hugh to like a first or second class rather than actually sit down and read a novel with myself. So I
I
guess,
love that.
I mean, yeah, I'm like a big kid, I guess, at heart. I love the movie Holes, but I'd rather the book by Louis Sachar. That's like probably more stage 2 or stage 3 book. So, yeah, yeah, if you put me in a bookshop, I'll go straight to the kids section. So, ask my partner about that. So,
That
yeah,
is great.
yeah, it's probably not the best answer, yeah,
No, I
in
love it
terms
though,
of what I
because
do
it's
for a
you.
living.
Thank you. And there's probably a whole lot of school leaders that are right with you right now.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And isn't it isn't that so grounding when you're having a really rough day, when it's all gone pear-shaped, to
Yep.
go and be with kids and to sit and read a picture book it's just so centering, isn't it?
Yeah. That's probably the best part of my job. It's like, I probably this is the longest I've actually sat at my desk in a long time. But yeah, I'm constantly out and yeah, in amongst the kids. So yeah, I love it. You have all these pressures as a principal and things that, may not go your right way. And, sometimes, it's not a great day. But yeah, having those, having to the chat, like my favorite part of the day every day is the morning when the kids come in, I'm on playground duty. And it's like, I get to talk to the kids or, I start like a gardening club. So we've been doing weeding. Like they're the joy bits of my day. And I don't think I'd give that up for anything. So yeah.
Well, last question and we'll let you out of the office.
Okay, great,
Let you
because
get
I'm
out
starting
there.
to get cagey.
Yeah, yeah. So, what's something that brings you comfort or joy at the end of a tough week?
It's probably at the end of the day. I know that when I get home, it's kind of like that third space. I know Simon Breakspear speaks about it, having that third space and making sure it's like, you go and you do something right. So I know when I get home, my bag doesn't even touch the ground. I've changed shoes and I've got the dog lead and I'm walking around the block. It's kind of like that decompressing of the day. And then, yeah, and then you're kind of set. So, yeah. So I think that's kind of I guess my well-being strategy. Yeah,
Yeah, that's great. Fantastic.
yeah.
Well, Karen, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and the
Nice.
insights and sharing the journey for Warwick Farm over the last term. Fantastic.
Hey,
Okay,
Thank you for having
now
me.
you can get out of the office and go and see the kids.
Okay, we got Easter hat parade today, so I've got to go and cook some sausages. It's like
Enjoy
we're having
it.
a barbecue. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Karen. You've been listening to Trailblazing Schools with me, Trudy Graham. If this episode brought someone to mind, share it with them. You'll find further reflections, practical resources and leadership tools in the show notes. Until next time, lead with courage, seek clarity and keep trailblazing.